One of the most important parts of our work is based around long-term study sites which we've had in place, in many cases dating right back to 1983. And one of the groups of animals that we regularly survey on those sites are forest birds. There's about 65 species of birds across this system, give or take 20 species. And on average we see that the unlogged, unburnt sites have by far the highest species richness. In fact, when we compare them against places that have been salvage logged, for example, which is post-fire clear felling, we see there's about 4 times as many species on an unlogged, undisturbed site as compared to a very highly disturbed site. But the forest birds tell us a lot about what's going on. So most of the calling is actually done by males. And calling takes energy. And so the amount of calling that gets done tells us about the quality of the forest. And that then is a signal that's read by females. And they choose their mates based on the amount of calling that's been done by the males, because that's the places where their territories are likely to be most successful for bringing up babies. So females are really interesting in this case. They're choosing their mates. And these in turn tell us about the biology of the forest, and again the key roles that these species are playing in these kinds of systems. Birds are really important for pollination, really important for seed dispersal, and they're really important in the trophic or the food chains in these systems. Lots of nests fail because they're prey for other animals. So forest birds are really important in their systems, and they're also telling us about how these systems are tracking. So since 2004, we've seen significant declines in 24 of the 49 bird species for which we've done detailed long-term analysis. So this is telling us that the system is not travelling well, and that we need to do more to better protect this system, to not only conserve the forest, but the important species that occur within it. And birds are a really key group in this system. So there are some important things in the declines of species, and one of them is that almost all of the hollow dependent species are showing signs of significant decline, which means that that's in common with almost all of the species of possums and gliders in this forest, and that's related to the catastrophic loss of very large old trees in this system. Now, how do we know these things? The way that we collect our data each year in the same way with the same group of people on the same sites gives us what's called time series data, and that tells us about trends over time, and those key trends are important for us to understand the condition of the forest, the condition of biodiversity, and how it's changing over time. Then we need to understand what we need to do about it, and that's where conservation science and threatened species management comes in. So one of the important things about doing bird surveys in this forest is that you almost never see bird species, you only hear them. And so it's like learning another language, learning bird speak, to separate the different species and sometimes recognise males and females. And it really is like a separate language, because many of these bird species have much wider distributions than these forests, and they have different dialects. Just like somebody from Northern England speaks differently from someone in the US who speaks differently from Australia, these birds also have different dialects. And because we work in many different places, we actually have to understand the dialects as well to make sure that we've got the right identifications of particular species. And that's part of the joys of doing bird watching and bird listening in an environment like this, just listening to the atmosphere and how it resonates in these extraordinary cathedral-like forests.